Good morning. I was trying to think, was it evening or morning? So, good morning, everybody. It is me, Demetra K. I'm sitting here with the recovering Democrat, Donovan Sadiq, and it is another edition of the Demetra K podcast. We will also be streaming this on YouTube as well. So, this show promotes Black love, knowledge, and understanding of all things that go on in the Black community to make us an even better people, with the emphasis on even. And we usually have an audience, but we don't today. It's just me and Donovan. We decided to take it back to the old school so that we can really have our thoughts, formalized and fight with each other like we used to back in the day and all of that. So
it isn't necessarily fighting. It's just the idea that I'm right, you're wrong.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about that quarter, that 25-cent piece that has we'll have that of Maya Angelou on there. But before we get into that, Donovan, what's going on with you?
And again, thank you guys for having us. It is Saturday, January 15th, 2022. Pacific Standard Time right now, it is 9:15 a.m. And we want to welcome you guys to the Demetra K podcast. We told you guys we were going to do the podcast and get some more content out there for you guys. And we are doing that. Again, if you guys can, please like, share, subscribe, and, just kind of come in and comment on the podcast if you're looking at it on the thing, and we'll get back to your comments as soon as we can do that and we get them up and running. We are absolutely happy to have you guys here, but the podcast is for you guys that are sitting in traffic in all of the major cities. You have nothing else to do, and you want to get a little bit of knowledge and concern and info. This is the right podcast to tune into.
And where can they find this podcast, Donovan?
You can find this podcast on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and all of your podcasting platforms that are out there. You will find it. Just put in Demetra K. The podcast should pop up.
All right, now, so I should also warn you guys that I am under the weather. I'm actually getting better, but I was down bad for a couple of days, and so that's why I sound a little congested. It is not the COVID or anything like that. I think it's a mild flu or something. I don't know. But anyway,
and it's so funny that people, they got us so focused on the COVID or the whatever this thing is, that people forget there's the flu out there. There's all these other things, respiratory things that are out there, especially in the wintertime. So a lot of people are getting flus and their regular annual flu stuff. So.
Correct. So yeah, we just feel like we need to say, it's not the COVID, it's just the regular, flu or cold or whatever. But anyway, I'm doing better. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. As you guys know, recently it was announced that a quarter will be coming out this year through, and I guess it's an act of Congress that was passed in 2020, where they will be putting 5 women on the quarter, and it's going to start with that of Maya Angelou. Now, you guys know Maya Angelou is a poet laureate, in addition to being an activist and a Broadway actress, and just anything you can think of, right? And she was also given the medal, I forget what they call it.
Medal of Freedom.
Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama.
And so wow! Wait! Doesn't this go back to when I say Black politicians, what they do when they get elected to Congress? They name post offices and they give each other civil rights medals and accolades. That's all they do. If you look at their records, if you don't believe me, go look at their records.
Right. So I said all of that to say is Maya Angelou is very decorated. She wrote the very famous book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which was about her life and the things that happened to her. Most of us had to read the book at some point in time.
Or saw the movie. I saw the movie. It was really great.
Right. So Maya Angelou, was considered a mother to a lot of people, not biological, but Oprah considered her to be one of her mothers. And so anyway, Maya Angelou is very deserving of that honor. Okay, so I'm not taking anything away from Maya Angelou at all.
Yeah, real quick about Maya Angelou. Not only was she multifaceted, how many of you guys know that she was also a comedian? And she did comedic parts with guess who? Richard Pryor. You'll see her in the Richard Pryor show, and she did awesome poem on the Richard Pryor show. It was serious, but at the same time she could act, and she was also in A Rage in Harlem, one of her last films.
Right. So she, is very well decorated. And so they, being Congress, as I said, they commissioned, it was an act of Congress of 2020, putting 5 women, including that of Maya Angelou. It's going to start with her. And so it's going to start from this year, 2022 to 2025, of them rolling these coins out.
Whatever happened to the Tubman dollar or whatever the thing was? Whatever happened to that?
They're still working on it. So anyway, Maya Angelou is on the quarter. Now, on the other side of that quarter is that of George Washington, who is, or was, I should say, a slave owner. And so I don't really know how much of an honor that would be to put Maya Angelou on the back of a quarter that has a slave owner on the front of the quarter. But also it is one of those things that is counting as symbolism for Black people. As we know, Black people have not gotten anything specifically that's worth anything. Yes. Well, let's just break it down. They say we got a Juneteenth holiday. It's Juneteenth. Yes. No. But is that specifically for us? Are we going to be the only people getting off that day? Are we going to be the only people getting paid time and a half that day?
Well, I happen to know that's a federal holiday. So I know for a fact that unless you work for the federal government or a government entity, you're not even getting a day off in most cases.
Yeah, and so then we got the hip hop holiday, which I'm not even going to lie to you and tell you I even know what that's about.
Well, is that the hip hop holiday or is it hip hop recognition month?
Okay, so maybe it's hip hop recognition month, but okay. Are we going to get something from that?
It's something.
It's something. Okay.
It's something.
So that the coin falls right along with those things, the low hanging fruit symbolism for Black people. Now, we know that Asians have gotten something, an anti-hate crime bill. Hispanics have got something via DACA, the Afghans, and everyone. Now, wait. And I'm just talking about the Biden administration.
Yes, Jim Clyburn gave an additional $61 billion to an Indian tribe that he authored himself.
Right. And so the Biden administration has only been in office a year at this point. They've been in office a year, so they
actually not even a year. We have 5 more days, it'll be a year.
Well, so roughly.
Yeah.
But they've managed to give everybody else something specifically that is helpful. I'm not talking about no coin. I'm not talking about no Juneteenth holiday. I'm talking about something that is going to help them move the ball, whether it protects them as a class of citizen, whether it gives them some money.
Gives them a stake, right, to go off.
Let's take the Afghans, for example.
Everything they need to be successful, money, infrastructure, whatever they need, the government is going to provide so that they can fend for themselves.
Right. And so here we are as Black people. We are jubilant and ebullient about a coin.
It's Maya Angelou.
Well, I mean, and we should be excited about her, because she is very well decorated. But most of those quarters will end up in the hands of other people. They ain't going to end up in our hands. Those quarters will end up in everybody else's hands. And if we get the quarters, we going to end up spending them back with everybody else. And so they want to do everything but give us reparations.
I didn't think about that. So you're telling me this is symbolism?
Yeah.
It's something.
It's something. Yeah, and it's symbolism. It's more of it. And I had this heated conversation with people who shall remain nameless this morning.
Yes.
And
people we care about.
It's people and attitudes like that. Oh, it's something. Well, they gave us something. It's attitudes and stuff like that. That's emboldens that of the Biden administration or Democrats. The Democrats to say, well, we know we'll have Negroes that'll defend this to the end. They'll defend it and say, well, it's something. We always mad about something. They give us something and we can't be happy.
Well, Demetra, see, here's your problem. You and Donovan, this has always been you two problem. And people like you. You got to understand we need a majority to get anything done in the Congress. So we got to elect more Democrats that have the majority right now that ain't doing shit anyway, right? So they're telling you we need more majority. So you don't understand. It takes a majority to pass anything, but it took a minority to obstruct within your own party, right? You got to understand that. But as a Black person, my sister, let me tell you this, what you don't understand.
You got to say what you don't understand is.
Yeah, what you don't understand is this is something, okay? You need to get up Start buck dancing and thanking massa that he gave us something. Why? Because it's going to take a few years for a white man to accept us as equals. So, stop bucking the system and get with the program. Now, you're going to be long dead, and maybe your grandkids might be long dead, but one day, sweet Jesus, we going to get to the promised land.
One day, huh?
One day. I don't know what that day is, but as I see the Afghans and the Hispanics and the Asians, man, they're getting their pie right now. And you know damn well here in California, we have a city named Chino, right? And then there's the Asians built their own city next to Chino. What's the other one? Is it East Chino, West Chino?
As one of those. It's in the hills.
Yeah, but it's right next to them because the white folks didn't want them in their neighborhood. So the Asians were like, okay, we'll make our own city.
Right.
And they did so. They had all the tools, the economics and everything. They said, you know what? We don't need to sit at your table. We can make our own table. But see, black people, we don't want you to do that. So if you guys are listening to this podcast and you're content getting butter biscuits and dimes and quarters and people that are long dead, why couldn't you give her a coin when she was alive so she could appreciate it?
Or she can spend it.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't do that. But like you said, there's always going to be a group of folks, mainly civil rights era folks, because that's their base, because they know they are so scared about losing everything. I believe, I'll make a bet with you. Do you think Biden's going to be a one-term president?
Yeah.
Yeah. I firmly believe that because the young folks ain't falling for it. So you got to get with the program and stop bucking the program. It's something.
No. And I don't want to go as far as say it angers me. Mm-hmm. It concerns me that we still have so many people who think it's okay, like, oh, well, they gave you a quarter, you should be cool with that. You know what I mean? It's like...
So let me ask you this real quick. So are you concerned the fact that there are so many people that are cool with it? Or what concerns me is the ignorant Negro, I would expect that kind of behavior. What bothers me is the Negroes that are educated. Remember, we couldn't find the HBCUs. We can't find sororities. We can't find fraternities.
Oh, I found them.
Oh, did you?
It's Founders Day, and so they're all out there celebrating Founders Day.
Okay, did you ask anybody what is your thing about Biden administration?
They don't want to talk about that. They moved on from that.
Oh, they're not in politics anymore?
They're not in politics no more.
Oh, gotcha.
They moved on from that.
Okay, gotcha.
So, I mean, I've even seen Kamala Harris, talking about his Founders Day, for their sororities and things like that.
I would be so fucking embarrassed.
It's like, there's just some people who don't want to see it. They don't want to see it, and it further illustrates the conditioning that we as black people are under, even from slavery. We are conditioned to defend white people, I should say massa, and defend the little bitty things they give us. It's like they give the slaves half of a butter biscuit on Sunday. Oh, he sure is good to us now. Oh, we could have got nothing, but we got something. And it's like, yeah, I guess it's something, but is it going to help black people move the ball? Like, what does this quarter do? You're doing everything but printing. You're printing more quarters, but you're not printing reparation checks.
Right.
How much does it even cost to do that? I'm sure it costs some money. I don't know. The U.S. Mint could do it at once, but I'm sure it's not free. Mm-hmm. So you're commissioning these coins, but yet you're not even thinking about giving black people reparations. And we didn't ask for a coin. We didn't ask for Juneteenth holiday.
We didn't ask for hip-hop recognition.
Mm-hmm. We asked for a check, and they're doing everything else. And the other conversation I had this morning was, I don't expect them to do anything for us. Mm-hmm. Like, I can go get it myself. And I said, well, why is it only us that don't expect them, the politicians, or white supremacy? Now, I get them not expecting to do something for us, but it's due us. I said, do you think the Asians have that attitude? when they was trying to get their bill, they said, well, I don't expect them to make us a protected class of citizens.
Oh no, you had two senators that said if you don't, get us some protection and stuff, none of your agenda's going through, and they wrote the bill right then and there.
But what do we have? We have black misleadership, who will not stand 10 toes down on any issues for us at all. They co-sign the symbolism, like these coins, Barbara Lee, and all the other congressional black caucus.
Wait a minute. We don't need no qualified immunity. I'd rather get rid of qualified immunity so we can get a empty teeth bill through. You're going to pull the qualified immunity out and do that. Well, if y'all don't get in line, y'all can't come to my fish fry.
Well, I brought that up as well. I said, even in the George Floyd and Policing Act, I said they being black misleaders are willing to forego the qualified immunity to get the infrastructure bill passed. They were willing to do that. And like I said, James Clyburn went on record saying, well, it's not important to me at this moment as long as we get the whole, whole infrastructure
bill
passed.
But okay, and that's fine if it's not important to him. But you're talking about over 34 million black people that it might be important to.
Right. Well, unfortunately, they get up in these positions and they speak for the rest of us. But to your point about the Asian leaders, they said we will obstruct unless our people are protected. And they didn't have any problems with the Senate or the Congress. It went right through, right?
And passed unanimously on both sides. Right. Unanimously.
Right, because those people on both sides knew the ramifications that if they were to say, no, or whatever the case is. But anyway, So we don't have that. We don't have people going and saying, well, my people. Okay, so back to what I said about the George Floyd and Policing Act. We need that bill. I mean, black people are still being murdered wholesale. I mean, the bill is even a thing because a black man was lynched in the middle of the street in, 2020. So we have not seen anybody else have that done to them. But yet they're still, when I say they, talking about Congress and Biden, they're still fighting over whether they even want to pass it or not. Hell, when was the last time you even heard about HR 40, which is a study of reparations? When was the last time anybody's talked about that?
Nancy Pelosi said that it doesn't have the votes. What do you mean it doesn't have the votes? So you're telling me that there are people within your party that don't stand for black people or working people or everyday people?
Well, because you have voters, black voters, who will continue to vote for oppression no matter what.
93%.
Then you have the black leaders who will go and kiss up under Nancy Pelosi and, not say, hey, my people need this bill. I don't ever want to see another black man lynched in the middle of the street. We better pass this bill or we're obstructing. They don't do that. They go in there and say, well, whatever's convenient.
No.
They have this attitude of, we're all Americans. We're all in it together. And it's like, are we really?
Or their excuse is, we tried. Don't worry, y'all. Get out of the streets. Stop burning up stuff and just, being enraged. Stop doing that. Y'all get us elected. We will get the qualified immunity and hold these policemen accountable.
Nah.
9 months pass. Now, remember, these guys are on the clock every 2 years, right? Am I correct? For Congress? Every 2 years? So they're on the clock. 9 months wasted, and all they could do and report to us is, we tried. It's dead. The bill is dead. It's not coming anywhere.
And guess what happens? Negro voters say, well, they tried. They getting obstructed. They keep getting in the way. The Republicans won't let them.
Wait, but you got the majority. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying.
Know that.
Yeah, we know that, but that's what these people don't understand. When you have the majority, like the filibuster, the clock is ticking, and this is my thing about the whole politic thing when it comes to what you're saying. The Democrats, they're trying to run the clock out. That way they can say, well, the Republicans are in control. We tried. If you don't vote for us, hey, nothing's going to get done. Well, we voted for you and nothing got done.
Well, guess what? Excuse me. These midterm elections are coming, and this is going to be, I firmly believe, this is going to be a referendum on the Democratic Party. It has to be. Now, when I was having this discussion earlier, It's like, what point is that going to prove? I said it's going to show the Democrats that you can no longer continue using black people and then, thumbing your nose at us and telling us we're going to have to wait and get in line and all this. That. And I said, and they said, well, the Republicans will come in. So what?
So what?
So what? I said, I would rather to be with the devil, I know and I can see, than to have the devil that keeps saying he ain't the devil be running things. I said that the Democrats need to sit out for a couple years so they can think about how they're taking black people for granted and flat out lie, and let the Republicans come in and partially wake black people up so we can understand that we do need to do for self. So it's
exactly. Exactly. But let me ask you this real quick, because it goes on to our topic, what we're talking about. Joe Biden was told, don't bring your white Confederate ass to Georgia, right? Stacey Abrams didn't even show up. This is the woman that went around, supposedly, and she did, and got all these votes and turned Georgia blue, right? She didn't even show up at this rally that this guy gave a speech to. Okay, but here's my point about the speech. Biden sat in that speech, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm going to go and I'm going to do all this stuff and I'm going to get the Voting Rights Act. Now, here's the thing, listeners. These people are in Congress. They knew the Voting Rights Act, by the way, is specific toward black people. We are the only group of people that our rights to vote have to be renewed every 25 years or whatever many years it goes by, right? A lot of people are going to say, well, no, that's not true. We're all Americans. Bullshit. Don't fall for that. The Afghans that have just been flown in here, once they get citizenship, they don't have to worry about their voting rights being messed up. The Asians don't have to worry about that. The Hispanics don't have to worry about their rights being curtailed. That is a bill that is specifically met in all these bills across the nation that is supposed to circumvent voting. That's specific to black people. You want to know why? We vote as a block. We're the only group that does that. So if you're giving your vote 93%, of course the Republicans or whoever group is going to come up and do something to break that block up. Okay, I don't know where you guys are from, but if I'm going to go to a government building and let's say I go to DMV and I got to authenticate who I am, I don't have a problem showing them my ID. Oh, a lot of black people don't have IDs. That's not true. I know a lot of black people that are driving cars and all kinds of stuff. You can't do nothing without some kind of a form of ID. I don't know why people are stuck at it. But here's my point. Joe Biden says, I'm going to go and I'm going to fight and I'm going to do this as long as I got a breath in my body. Give it a couple of weeks. I'm going to fight for the John Lewis and all this other stuff, right? He goes back to Washington. Here's what he said after he met with Manchin and Sinema. I don't think this is going to make it. I tried, basically paraphrasing. That's what he said. Joe Biden is from a bygone era to where, and I love the older civil rights people. Oh, he proposed this. He proposed that. He's going to do. He's going to do. Then it gets up there. Nothing gets done. He comes back and, I mean, no shame in his game. He's the leader of the Democratic Party. Can't get it done. Sorry, can't get it done. This is what we're dealing with. And then the civil rights era folks are happy that he tried. Oh, yes, let's give him a hand. He tried. Bullshit. You own the Justice Department. You can say, Joe Manchin, your daughter, we got the goods on her in that pharmaceutical thing. You could put the pressure on it. Merrick Garland, where is it that the element of crime on a person is overwhelmingly, and the person hasn't even been charged? These guys, I mean, I'm sorry, you guys. And I want to say this to my good friend Demetra. Don't give up the good fight. My mom, who I love dearly, is my only parent. If my mom could turn and go Democrat after many not
independent,
and from Democrat to independent, you just got to keep going and keep throwing the facts out there until they can't dispute it. My mom is at a point to where she could not defend what she was saying.
Well, I mean, to me, it's not. I'm not trying to change the minds of people who are bent on,
Sure.
and that's their right to feel that way. So that's fine, but they just need to understand that, as long as they continue to big up white supremacy and make excuses for it,
right,
we're always going to be where we are. A lot of that is in our control. We need to start doing for self and pooling our money together and group economics. All that. Yeah. That is in our control to a large degree. But stop making excuses for white supremacy using black people, because the Democrats are white supremacy as well. A lot of times when you think of white supremacy, you think of the Republicans. We have been sold a false bill of goods in regards to the Democrats. Oh, they're our savior. Oh, they're for the people. I can't tell you how many times I've had black people tell me that the Democrats are for the people.
Wait, are you talking about the same Democratic Party that supported the Klan and gave legislation and money to the Klan in the early 20th century? Democratic Party?
That Democratic Party, but if you're for the people, then why aren't the people better off? Because when you're for something, that means you're pro.
Oh my God!
So why aren't the people better off? Why are the people, the over 50% of the homeless population in the country? Why are the people a permanent underclass? Why are the people?
Why are the unions being broken up?
Or why are the people? When I talk about the people, I'm talking about black people.
Mm-hmm.
Why are the resources sucked out of our neighborhoods? Why is the people's neighborhoods being gentrified to the point of where they can't even stay there anymore? So and a lot of this, and it's not a secret. A lot of our neighborhoods, when I say our black people's neighborhoods, they're ran by black Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
They're a Democrat, and so. If it's for something, it would be better off. So you cannot draw the conclusion that the Democratic Party is for the people if the people or the results show something completely contrary. Make it make sense. Right. But you have people who will argue for that. Oh, they're for the people. Why? Because they give you a couple of dollars of food stamps. Why? Because you get some Medicare. Or because you get, a couple of dollars in welfare. You get some.
Well, you work for the Democratic Party, and they give you your sustenance and your money, and you go out there and you cape for them.
Yeah, but you're living on the precipice of doom.
Yeah.
And that's what the Democrats do. They leave you on the precipice of doom, but it's like, okay, we give you a couple more dollars.
Yeah. It's like you're on life support. They give you just enough to keep your brain, your body functioning. Basically.
Yeah, but your brain dead. We got our schools are not dilapidated. We got everything we need in there. Our neighborhoods are functioning. We're not drinking crappy water. We have, industry that's back in our neighborhoods that would allow people to build and buy homes and send their kids to school like they used to do. That's what for the people means.
Well, Dimitra, what you don't understand, and I'm trying to talk like Maxine Waters, what you don't understand is how it works. Is basically we've got to get out there and protest, and we've got to fight. And we got to reclaim our time. And that's what we've got to do. And I'm going to die on this seat until I get a nice golden casket like Aretha. And you guys will love me. And that's what, that's the type of thing you're saying. But I want to go back to something you said about gentrification. And I saw your program on the African Diaspora channel where you were talking about Nipsey Hussle. Could you, for the podcast, because I really thought that message was very prominent. And I'm just surprised a lot of black people don't watch the African Diaspora News channel, which you should. Dimitri's on it, as well as Phil Scott and the rest of the people that contribute there. But please tell us, Nipsey Hussle, who was the blueprint, and telling us what we needed to do. Could you give us a little highlight of the Nipsey Hussle situation and that property that he had? Because remember, when he went down, we were saying that could have been a hit to get that property.
Yeah, more than likely it was. Now, nothing has been, confirmed, but, it's kind of the same old blueprint, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, Nipsey's property, that's still there. They still have the Marathon store, but it's closed up for whatever reason. But down the street on Crenshaw and Slauson, there's a Nipsey Hussle mural, one of the famous ones, and it's on top. It's attached to an auto repair shop, right. And there's a property right behind it that is going, so it's 2 lots that's going to be gentrified, and so basically those businesses in the house are going to be leveled, and they're going to put forth like a 19-story building, and on the bottom of it is going to be where people can work and play type of thing. It's a a yuppie type of situation, and so that is smack dab in the middle of South Central. Okay, so Nipsey and his brother Sam, they were fighting hard against that by trying to buy up the block. That's what they did. They bought that block that the Marathon store is on, and it was a couple other stores that they own there. And they were big on trying to buy the block and reinvest back into the neighborhood. But since Nipsey is gone, I think that I'm not saying there's not people there who are not trying to continue it. But, what was suspected that was going to happen, them coming in and taking over, because they were saying they, being investors in the city, wanted that block. And then, so it was speculated that is partially why Nipsey is not here anymore. And so South Central, if anybody's been to South Central or not been to South Central, that is what you call the neighborhood. They call it, Nipsey neighborhood Nip. It is the neighborhood, it's our neighborhood, but not so much anymore. In a lot of those neighborhoods, houses are going for $1 million easily. And we're not talking about big monstrosity of houses or these mansions. We're talking about regular houses with bars on the windows. So they are gentrifying our neighborhoods, and we can no longer afford to live there. And so what they do is, and this is what we got to really pay attention, they create these public, we know them as public housing, but they're called low-income housing. That's the new name of it, low-income housing, opposed to it being the projects. Or Section 8, right? And so that's what they'll allow you to move in. And so what we're basically doing is going back to the Cabrini Greens and all the other project buildings.
Centralizing us.
Yeah, they're centralizing us, and they're taking back, if you will, because a lot of those neighborhoods belong to white people first. We came in and white flight took place. You guys know all about that. And so now we're just being priced out and having to live, in environments that we had that are foreign to us, and foreign to not just us, but our mamas and their mamas. Because you guys got to remember, our grandmothers and great grandmothers, my great grandmother lived in South Central. So that's how far back my family goes in Los Angeles, but those houses are being taken away.
Right now, and this is something that was talked about in the early 1990s in the movie Boys in the Hood, which John Singleton directed, and Lawrence Fishburne was talking about gentrification. That's how early it was seeing what was happening in South Central. Even though they and he explained it. He said they bring in the violence, the liquor stores, the gun stores, and they want us to kill ourselves, and that lowers the price of the property so that the developers could come in and buy it cheap, rather than if it was already high price. If you notice that they never, ever, people buy in Beverly Hills, but the value never goes down. If anything, it goes up.
Right. Well, I call it city-sanctioned genocide.
Yeah.
Where they know that all these killings are rampant in our neighborhoods, but like you said, using Beverly Hills as an example, they don't have rampant killings in Beverly Hills, but in our neighborhoods, it's rampant killing, and it's not just because people are stupid. That's part of it, okay? And no remorse for taking life or any of that. So that's part of it. But look at the difference between Beverly Hills and our South Central. Right. And Beverly Hills, there's resources, and they make sure that they pull resources into those neighborhoods. But in our neighborhoods, the resources are sucked out. And so when you have a neighborhood that doesn't have the resources, then you have your crimes and your destitute situations and things like that. So we saw it crisscross this Christmas season when perhaps Ray and Pookie went all into the Rodeo Drive and all of that, and they started to do the smash and grabs. Now, some of that is probably because they were going to do that anyway. But the other part of that is, well, look at the neighborhoods they come from. I'm not talking about working at Popeyes. That's not a job that's going to help you, especially if you live in LA. That's not a job that's going to help you sustain life. And we talk about industry. We talk about jobs where people can say, I don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs. They don't have those things in our neighborhoods anymore. Right.
And then to a lot of people listening on the podcast, you might be on the East Coast or worldwide in Africa or somewhere like that. South Central is only 8 miles, if that, from Beverly Hills. Because it's funny how I talk to people and they make it seem like Beverly Hills is out in this, out by Simi Valley, out,
on a hill somewhere.
Yeah, away from the thing. No, you're talking about an 8-mile, ride, and you're in Beverly Hills, and that's the stark difference between the communities. And I'm glad you brought the communities up, like you said about the resources that Beverly Hills gets. Look at their leadership; they don't let warehouses come into their neighborhood. They don't care what Amazon or Prologis has to say. You're not gonna. They know that when you bring warehouses, like in Skid Row is near a bunch of what? That's downtown warehouses. That's the biggest homeless section in the world because that's what it attracts. So in South Central, you go down there, look at all the black mayors in the South Central area that control those areas, and they let that stuff go on.
Yeah, they care not for black people. And so again, whenever somebody tells you the Democrats are for the people, ask them, take them through the line of questioning that I just said. Is it for, pro? Mm-hmm. It's to help and it's to build up if they're for the people. Mm-hmm. Or have they just brainwashed black people and thinking, well, if they give you a little extra on your food stamps, that's something? That's not something.
It's something.
We want the major strides that everybody else is getting. And I think, this is the argument I was having with them earlier, is that a lot of people, not just black people, don't realize that it will take 232 years to catch up to the wealth of white people. So it's not like we're asking for something that's not due us. That wealth gap is there because it was taken from us, and we were never, when I say we, our ancestors, and even up until this day, were not paid at all.
Right, for their labor.
Fairly for the labor. Mm-hmm. So it's like, we got to get out of that mind frame of, I don't expect nobody to do nothing for me. And it's like, why? Everybody else expects something.
Well, I mean, look at what happened to the Asians when their land was taken during World War II and their businesses and properties. They were compensated correctly. So, I mean, it's kind of like when you go to court, okay? And let's say I was in an auto accident, and me and your cars both banged up. When you go to court, and your car's only valued at $17,000, you can't go in there and say, I want $30,000. No, you go in there to be made whole. That's the legal term, to be made whole. So either I've got to compensate you for the damage that I caused, but I can't give you a whole new car what the car was valued when you got it at $35,000. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what I got, and you got to be made whole. That's what the Asians asked for, and that's what we should be asking for. We want to be made whole. Tulsa, Oklahoma, all that other stuff that was going on down there. Mass graves that have been found in the last couple of years, down there. We were doing fine by ourselves. So, what's wrong with us being asked to be made whole? We're not asking to special privileges. We're asking to be made whole. What's wrong with that?
And then not only that, I mean, you think about during Jim Crow. Mm-hmm. Oops, my light. During Jim Crow, where we did have millionaires and black people who were doing well. Mm-hmm. Who's going to make up for them being murdered and their lands being stolen and all the horrors that they endured due to white supremacy? Like, who's going to make up for that? And so I bring that up is because part of the argument that I was having too is, the person was saying, well, I'm out there doing this and doing that and doing this. Okay, great. That's you. But I'm talking about black people as a whole. But what law in this country is going to protect you specifically as a black person, that when you do get all this money and all this land and stuff, and what law is going to protect you against somebody, white or whatever, coming to do something to you and murdering you and taking your stuff? What law is going to protect you specifically as a black person?
Right. And then think about this too. If the law doesn't get you and the white people don't get you, what is causing us as a people right now to lose hectares of acreage in the South of land that our ancestors fought and got and all this other stuff? Because we're not teaching the next generation about property tax and financing. And a lot of these young people are losing. And again, I'm not for or against weed or whatever, but let's face it, if your mind isn't fully developed and you're already using weed and you're not motivated because weed doesn't motivate you and stuff like that, and in some cases, depending on who you are, grandmama dies and leaves her favorite grandbaby the house. Grandbaby don't know nothing about paying the property tax on it. Yeah, you own the house, but you don't own the land. And that's how a lot of this land is being stolen or given up by black people, because the older generation, I don't know what they're thinking. They think they're going to live here forever. And then they get sick or they have a stroke and stuff, and now they're incapacitated. When are you going to teach? How are you going to teach? And
Right.
we're losing all of that land. And a good example is like what happened in New Orleans. If you go to downtown New Orleans right now, if you get off the airport, you go by the Superdome down there, you'll see all the houses right off the highway. You can even see it right off the interstate. You can see the houses that are abandoned. Pretty soon, the city's going to say, you know what? If the owners can't be found and whatever, we're going to start taking these properties. And the reason why those properties are left like that, because the generations that followed, that just lived in the house, they don't know what to do, and they don't have the resources to redevelop those properties. And the government's going to come in and say, you know what? It's been like this for 15 years. We've sent you notices, but you moved to Houston years ago, but you let the property stand there, and they're stealing the property right out from under us.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, it is about being educated. Mm-hmm. So we do have to educate our children. And that's why I kind of hate that argument too. Oh, I wish they would teach financial literacy in school. Yeah, I wish they would teach it too. But why are you waiting for the school system to teach your children something? You should be teaching them at home.
Yeah. Shouldn't they learn financial literacy at home?
Yeah, I mean, you should be teaching that. You should teach your kids about credit and, credit cards and credit scores and, budgeting and all. That's where they should learn it. I mean, going to school, I think your kids should learn most of that stuff at home. And when they go to school, it's a bonus, but we need to start teaching that. Like you said, a lot of our elders, because this is the thing. This is why the elders, they buck the system a lot with not voting for Democrats, or basically wanting to. It's because they feel like, well, I got it out of the mud. I look at me. I was able to work and buy these houses and, and maybe put some kids to school, and I got a little savings and all of that. It's
Thanks
like
to the civil rights era that they fought in. Nobody, and don't I say that all the time? Nobody benefited from the civil rights era more so than the people that fought it.
Yeah, but then so it's like you didn't pass any of that down, and not only that, the things that you voted for helped get us to where we are as far as black people in our neighborhoods, no jobs and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's like for you to say, I got out of the mud, you got out of the mud at a time where it was, easier. I'm not saying it was easier for you to do that. Mm-hmm. And so you didn't continue to teach that and educate the people who will be inheriting that property and stuff for you. So that's why a lot of times we see people getting houses because their mom and their dad died or whatever, and they don't keep the house because property taxes, they didn't know nothing about that. What you mean? I got to pay property tax? How I got to pay something that's already paid off? Right. So there's no financial literacy there, and we don't understand the value of having a family home. Yeah. Having something that we can, somebody could fall back on. Somebody falls on hard times. Okay, you know what? We got the house. Go ahead and live there. Get yourself together or whatever. Right. We only see selling it so we can go do, Negro.
Stay in debt. Right. Stay in debt. Have no money to do anything. Because think about this. Even if Big Mama left you the house, whatever the deal is, right? Especially you ladies. I don't know what it is. You guys are getting men that don't know shit. And it's one thing to go into debt because you want a dream house because a house is an investment. That's very true. But you got to maintain the house. Just because you make just enough to pay the mortgage, what about when the shingle falls off? What about if, this breaks? Because let's face it, the newer homes nowadays, these brand new, upstairs, downstairs, 5-bedroom, no yard, but you got this big old house. I mean, I will walk into some of my friends, in some of these modern homes, to change the light bulb, there ain't a ladder that you could get at Lowe's that would reach that.
Exactly.
So you're gonna have to pay somebody to come in and and go and whatever you're gonna do. And then again, if you understand anything about what you're gonna spend your money on, my little shack house, as you guys see. My little house, as you see, it's real wood. Now think about it. When you go back to Philadelphia, New York, in places like that, even here in California, Remember those houses in downtown Riverside that are like LA based? Those old colonial homes that like from the 1900s?
Yeah,
Historical homes. Real wood. They're still standing, and they're worth millions of dollars now. My house
got good bones.
Yeah, and my house is made of wood, right? Even, excuse the mess, but the point is, it's real wood in here. But the point is, the value of my house is actual real value. I have friends that have paid. They're paying for a house $600,000, $700,000. Average person. The house in materials to build it is less than $150,000. Now, I ask you, Demetra, if I told you as a developer that it only cost me $150,000 to build you this home, why would you pay more than that?
Oh, I got to have it. It's in this nice neighborhood. It's got this and it's got that.
So you're going to pay me 4 times what it took